Hello everybody and welcome. My name is Richard Zoltek and I will be providing the video tutorials for this program. Today we're going to continue on by looking at furniture and furniture pieces, which also include things like toilets and sinks and anything related to plumbing or kitchen items. So what I've got here is a basic layout where we've put in some doors and windows. We're going to put in the front entrance door at the end as a refresher. But here I want to put in a custom walk-in shower. So I'm taking a look at one of the diagrams that I've supplied with the program to identify all the dimensions and create a custom image here. So I will zoom in first into this bottom right hand corner. So I'm just moving my mouse over top of this area. This is the bathroom area. And then I'm going to push my mouse into, or the wheel right into my mouse, and I will center this diagram here. So this particular walk-in shower is 0.93 meters in width. So I will offset an existing line and then change some of the properties a bit later on. So I select offset, type in a distance, and there's the rectangle that represents the outer edge of my shower enclosure. Now, before I move on, I'm going to switch to the plumbing layer. And in here is where I'm going to do all my shower fixtures or my bathroom fixtures. So I'm going to replace this diagram here with a rectangle. I'm using the rectangle tool. Again, it has those specific properties that make it a single entity. So when I go to offset, it offsets its entire shape, either inwards or outwards, depending on which side I click on. So I want to offset 0.02, offset 0.02, enter, and select the line and select the inner portion of the shower enclosure. Let's get rid of that temporary construction line that I made. And there is my shower enclosure. And you can see how offset works really well in that regards. I'm going to add a couple lines to define the slope of the inner portion of the shower. There we go. And then we actually have the drain. It's a 3-inch drain, but it's symbolic in this particular case. So I'm going to use the circle command, and you'll notice circle command requires 2 or 3 options depending on the information that you have. I know the center of this, which is right at this point, and then the radius itself is basically symbolic in this particular case. So I'm going to put in 0.02, and there's my inner ring of the shower, and then I'm going to offset that as well, 0.02. And this will represent the actual drain itself. Now I have a door in here as well. So we have a door enclosure, and it is 0.06 from the outer edge. So once again, I'm going to use existing lines, and then I can get rid of them. So 0.06. And this is where the door starts. And this is all based on manufacturer's requirements. And that door is 0.79 wide. There we go. Again, I'm using the wall layer drawing as the actual components of what I'm going to offset and trim. And from here, I'm going to offset the thickness of the door, which is the equivalent of the wall thickness of 0.02. So I'm going to offset that. And again, a lot of this stuff is symbolic. Now look at how big that is. So I'm going to trim it. And I'll select trim, and this time I'm going to select cutting edge. So I click on trim, click on T and enter. And my cutting edge is this, and then I press enter, and I can get rid of all this excess line work. And there we have that portion of it. And now I'm just going to finish that off by adding a couple pieces of line work here. And this represents the actual entranceway to the shower enclosure. Then I can delete those temporary construction lines. Now I'm ready to create the door swing. Interesting enough, again, it's a glass door which is fairly thin. I'm using the existing line work to create a rectangle, and then I'm going to rotate that rectangle around its pivot point 45 degrees. Now this is going counterclockwise, so it's positive, and then I'm going to make my arc. And again, I have a start, center, and an end. It's going to start here. the center of the pivot here, and the end is there. Now, this may not necessarily be the direction of the door swing. It all depends on where the hardware is going to be for the plumbing. If the plumbing's on the right side, I may want to flip this around. If the plumbing's on the inside, I may want to keep where it is. It all depends. If I want to, or if I choose to rotate that, what I'm actually going to do is mirror it rather than rotate it. I'm going to mirror it, select it, and my selection. Right mouse key, shift, hold down midpoint. There we go. And see, I can rotate that to a point perpendicular on this side. Now you can see I'm moving a bit faster than I have in the past. Do I want to erase the source? Yes. And now I've got the shower door enclosure in the other direction. So you have multiple ways of doing this, and this is just one quick way of looking at dimensions that are provided by the manufacturer and inserting them in the drawing. I've gone ahead and drawn the water closet, and now I'm going to move it in place. There we go. And I'm going to rotate it. Doesn't matter where I rotate around. I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees clockwise, which is negative 90. And then I will move that in place here. Now, according to the building code, typically I want to have from the center of the water closet to any outer edge a distance of 1'4" or greater. So I'm going to select offset, type in 1'4". Well, this is a metric drawing, so 1'4" is a bit less than 0.41 meters. And I'm using the shower edge as an indicator of how wide that distance is visually on my screen. Now, when I look at my water closet, that's a minimum value. So I could actually have my water closet centered, and I'm just going to temporarily move that, centered along that line. So the center of the water closet could be as close as this, but I want to give myself more room than that. So I'm using this as a guide to make sure that the actual vanity that I place in here is not going to be as large as that opening. So it's going to be slightly smaller than that. So I'm going to use the existing walls to offset as the construction lines for my vanity. My vanity is going to be approximately 20 inches wide by 4 feet, which is about 0.54 by 1.22 meters. So I will offset the existing walls here by 0.54, and that will give me standard 20-inch wide vanity. And I'm also going to offset it by 1.22, and that will give me my approximate 4-foot width. And you can see I'm well within the distances, the limiting distances by the code, or the minimum distances by the code, in order to have my water closet in that particular space. So in the plumbing layer, and then again, I could have been in a cabinetry layer if I wanted to, just to put in the cabinetry. I'm going to do that. I'll create my rectangle for that. Here are my construction lines, get rid of them. So I'm using existing lines as construction lines because I know I'm going to get rid of them. And I'm going to add more plumbing fixtures. So I want to switch back to the plumbing layer. So for the sink, I decided to use a drawing I've done in the past. I just copy and pasted the sink drawing into this one, and now I'm going to insert it and rotate it in place. Now it's a bit of a big sink, but that's okay. I can place it wherever I'd like to on here, and there is that particular sink in this location. The other option that I have, if I want to be very precise in terms of its location, is I can create a temporary construction line. I'm going to pick the midpoint. I'm going to draw a line here along the midpoint. So shift right mouse key, midpoint, and I will pick it perpendicular to the back. There, press enter. Now I'm happy with the width in terms of its location for the front and the back, but I want to center this sink. So a couple different ways. I'm just going to move it. So I click on it, press enter, and I'm going to move it from the center of the circle straight down, so perpendicular to that line mark, and now it's centered along my cabinetry. All right, so I'm going to continue on and finish off the kitchen. Now the actual freestanding island that I have, I'm going to draw that. It's on the furniture practice sheet, but instead of using their sinks, that I've indicated there. I'm going to drop a couple of manufacturer sinks in there so it looks excellent, and then I'll place it in this diagram. All right then, again, with a bit of practice and a bit of time, we should be able to finish off this drawing as complete as possible, moving towards including title blocks and text and hatching, and we'll be able to finish off this drawing.